Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Rob Baer, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher, Mike Haspil, and Wyatt Turk. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Greetings and felicitations.
Yo, what's up?
I'm no longer replaced with a lizard avatar.
Does anyone else listen to Mike Haspil's intro and wonder if he's going to mispronounce felicitations? Every time he does, I'm like, that word's almost impossible to say.
I'm on autopilot.
God, it's impressive.
I did have something funny happen the other day. Somebody contacted me because they were watching old TOS and actually ran into that reference when it popped up organically in the episode they were watching. And I'm like, yeah, it is a TOS episode reference, The Squire of Gothos. So this is kind of funny.
One day, I want to be as knowledgeable about anything as you are about Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah. I have wasted my life.
I mean, we all got our thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to know my thing. I'm doing it right now.
It's a rule. It's definitely a rule on the internet. Kenny's thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a
faux show.
It's dark. But we got Rob back. Rob had a bout early last week, and his eyes are all fucked up. But now he says his eyes are better. And he's got steampunk goggles now. Are they prescription?
They are not. They're standard issue.
Well, good.
They're pretty dope. It's just, it's like $100, but I feel like when it comes to your eyes, they're priceless. So it's worth it.
Oh my God. This is not really a would you rather, but the other, this is how irrationally scared I am of losing a sense. It's occasionally wakes me up at night, and I'm not presenting this as in lieu of a would you rather, but would you rather be blind or deaf, Rob? You had it that. Those are your two options.
I was recently blind for a number of hours, so I felt pretty powerless, but I could hear everything going on around me. So
I feel like as long as I can hear, I'm not truly alone. I'm so afraid of losing my hearing that it gives me nightmares sometimes. Irrational. My dad's hard of hearing.
I don't know. I feel like losing your hearing would be the way less debilitating thing.
I feel you,
because I mean, you can still watch TV and movies because they have subtitles, right? I'm my hearing is already totally fucked up. So I constantly watch stuff with subtitles anyway, so I'm used to it. And then you think about just navigating, you still drive. You still go everywhere. You can still play 40K if you wanted to, right? It might be a little bit harder, but you can still do it. You can still paint. The only thing is you'd have to learn how to read lips and sign language, Definitely not nearly as hard as being blind.
yeah, and that's the one thing I noticed.
Very rationally stated. I agree with you. Not as hard, but but I'm terrified of I feel like I would just be perpetually alone. I don't know.
Well, if you don't have your eyesight, you really can't do much by yourself, right? So that's frustrating, but then you definitely need somebody. So it's I kind of see both sides.
It's almost a phobia.
It's almost the same as not wanting to get in airplanes to go places.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's pretty much the same, I'd say.
That's fair. Well, let me throw down a quick table of contents. We're gonna do the news with Rob. We're going to have a Haspil's Corner, which is going to be an exciting pop culture based Haspil's Corner. We're going to talk a little bit about the new Drukhari preview and then a little bit of meta cap on Clutch City, which happened last weekend. And Wyatt was there, and he also won Best Painted. So he also came home with a trophy.
I did.
Good stuff.
Repping hobby. So I'll kick it over to Wyatt for a Wyatt's Cave of Wonders.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention losing something because it's quite topical.
And do this.
Would you rather or both legs?
Dude, are you setting us up
Yeah,
here?
that's not.
Like-
That's not.
Like, you can't do that.
I just did.
Both my fucking legs. I have no choice, man.
Ditto.
It's like
Yeah.
there's no choice in this one. This is bad. This is terrible.
Yeah, I was like, we can't not say that.
Like, first off, I actually snapped the thumb on my right hand once. Probably like when I was like 28. Snapped that motherfucker. Like, and basically couldn't use my fucking right hand until it was healed. So I did do everything with my left hand. And I can't even wipe my ass with my left hand, dog. Like, correctly. I can't, like, it was a horror. Like, this 6 weeks, I couldn't do shit, dude. Like, I was like, dog, I'm useless. I can't paint a model. I can barely text. I can barely drive my manual transmission car. Like, I was like, this is the worst. Bro, no way. Can't even jerk off. I couldn't even properly self-pleasure myself with my left hand.
I feel like you would learn. You get used to it.
I'm definitely not painting models good.
Nope.
Like, anytime soon. Like, what about
I
you?
feel like you're not accepting this would you rather with your normal level of logical thinking that you normally do.
Do I have a magical fucking genie power that my left hand suddenly I can paint good in it?
I mean, yeah, I would allow it.
You'd give me a magical boon that I can still paint good with my left hand.
Yeah, why not?
Well, then fucking I'm back to take the right hand. If I get a exemption for my career.
Yeah, I never mentioned careers or anything. You just lose your dominant hand or both legs.
Is there like a got you in this somewhere?
No, I just figured you would think about it more than 3 seconds.
I've already almost didn't have the use of my right hand once, and I couldn't. It was
It's like the way that I saw this, and I immediately thought about it because I have a unique perspective. So I was like, they got some like really baller like prosthetic hands now. So it's like if I lose my right hand, I would have to relearn to do some things. Yeah, but I would have both legs. Not having legs really sucks.
Yeah, that can't really. It's hard to compete with that.
Oh, okay, fine. Am I just like double amputee or am I paraplegic in this scenario?
No. So you lose, like they're amputees. You lose legs.
So being friends with you for all this time, I know that would be easier sometimes because it would actually reduce my body weight. And so I do know I have a little insight there. So I'd be a double amputee. Would I have any health conditions that come along with it, or am I magically like fine?
No, you'd be fine.
I'm fine. So like I don't have any of the okay. Same thing with the arm. I lose lose the arm.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there no legs? Am I covered in health insurance?
Health insurance?
Yeah. Insurance cover this new scenario?
Yeah, like there's no actual like injury here. Like you don't get like run over by a truck. They're just like poof gone.
You get Thanos snapped.
Like,
yeah, it's like Looper where they just kind of disappear as if it had always been that way.
is my car automatically updated with hand driving if I lose my legs?
I allow it.
So like normal. So I'm not supposed to be thinking about like other life conveniences. All right. It's a little bit more complicated. I may have spoke rashly. You're right. I'm underestimating the ability to actually be mobile on my feet. Because I'm also thinking about you at conventions. and how like 30 feet of thick carpet could like ruin your day.
Oh yeah.
So a campaign is good, and I won't even take the genie boon. I'll relearn it with my left hand. I'll rebrand my business learning how to paint with your left hand after losing your right hand. Good to go. Take the hand.
Yeah, you'd be like the one-handed painter.
Yeah. I'll relaunch my education platform. You talked me into it.
There's actually a very well-known hobbyist that actually lost their dominant arm and had to relearn how to sculpt and paint with their.
This actually happened?
Yeah, one of the Perry brothers. His hand blew off in a reenactment cannon accident.
Wow.
I don't know the specifics, but yeah. And they're pretty good at everything. Off-hand or non. So it's doable, guys.
You're right. You talk me back into it. I'll change my answer back to I'll change my answer to just take the arm.
I think most difficult is definitely mobility. It's rough.
But it would cure my gout to lose my legs.
Well, yeah, there's that.
No, it's still not worth it.
Still not worth it.
It'd be like ultimate. Like I roll up to Wyatt and I'm in a wheelchair too, and he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Gout." He's like, "Man, fuck you, stupid."
He pushes you over with his
I'll be real. If that actually happens, I would feel empathy because I'm like, I know what gout does to Kenny. Like that is a debilitating thing. So if you lost both feet and then never have gout,
if my answer was like I had them removed because it's easier to deal with gout. You're like, that was your solution rather than like get your diet under control, stop drinking so much. Like that. This is easier.
Yeah, we're here for a good time, not a long time.
All right. Haspil, still on legs?
Yeah.
Haspil's like, yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. Born again man child. He says, but isn't like handy's a tenet of your business? I'm like, you're right.
Yeah, that would increase the value of the handy.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
By reducing just like one fell swoop.
Yeah.
My cryptocurrency, my hand job based cryptocurrency actually just doubled in value.
Yeah. Which works great for me because I am the centralized bank of all handies.
Yeah. My decentralized bank actually got decentralized. Yeah. All right. Enough of this. We've dragged this one on. I'm sorry, guys. This is on me. I'll shut up.
Yeah, we got surprised. Surprise! That's fun. Well, if you've been hankering for some GW releases, they definitely have a bunch of those this week. What is this note here? So going on pre-order this weekend, and don't forget there's also a preview as well. And it's going to be 1 hour later than what we're used to because the UK is actually for the next 2 weeks. They're ahead of us 1 hour, they're only 4 hours ahead of us instead of 5 here on the East Coast. So they haven't hit their daylight savings time yet. So it's a weird occurrence. It happens twice a year, whatever.
So what you're saying is it'll still be done by the time I wake up. Got it.
Correct. Yes. 100%. Saturday morning, 9:45 Eastern instead of 8:45 Eastern. If you're into that sort of thing. So going on pre-order this week is the Combat Patrol for Drukhari for $140. I think we did a breakdown on that, and it ends up being about $80 extra in value in that box, which I was really surprised they put the Incubi in there, to be honest, when they just came out last fall. Well,
seeing what Incubi did at Clutch City, Incubi real hot. They're real hot.
Yep. So that's might be a good pickup for a lot of folks, and of course it'll pair very well with the Piety and Pain box. If you are able to get that, because they are limited to I think 4 for most game stores, supposedly all game stores, but who knows? And that's $170 retail. The Codex Drukhari is $50 again. The data cards are $25. The dice set is $35. For Warhammer Underworlds, they're finally getting the lizards. These lizards have nipples. Doesn't make any sense, but they got them.
It's like Skyrim.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't kink shame those lizards, dude.
Well, you seem to be kind of an expert on lizard anatomy.
I'm just saying, the whole point of being a lizard, only mammals have the nips. But these lizards have nips.
Don't.
I got to admit, Rob, I didn't notice that when I saw the minis. But now that you pointed out, I'm like, yeah, that's dumb.
They got nips.
Don't. What do they call it? Exotrines, or are they mammals that lay eggs that also have nips?
Yeah.
Platypus, echidna.
Maybe the common ancestor of all lizardmen in Age of Sigmar is the platypus.
Australia strikes again. Love it. So that the Starblood Stalkers, they're at $40 for Warhammer Underworlds. A shard on Act 1, which infers that perhaps we'll get a shard on Act 2 and 3 and 4. Who knows? Book of Rust is $60 US for the first, I guess that's technically the first campaign, not dedicated Crusade book they've come out with. Then the Plague Purge Crusade Mission Pack is $40. Blood Bowl's got a couple of different accessories, the Halfling Team Card Pack and the Halfling Team Dice, $27 and $15 respectively. And they also get a Team Pitch for $47. For Middle Earth Strategy Battle, there's a Fangorn Dice set for $15, which actually looks pretty cool. It's got some green swirlies in it. Treebeard, the Mighty Ent is plastic box set for $75.
Oh, that is a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be. Because I'm getting them.
Because I'm getting it. And of course, it comes with
Merry and Pippin.
Yeah, extra. Well, two miniatures of them. You can have them on foot or on the shoulder. Yar.
So now I need to get 2 Treebeards to match the 2 Merry and Pippins.
Absolutely.
But then I'd have 4.
You got 4 Mary Pippins, and you have to get another Treebeard.
Yeah. You get it.
I do feel like getting back into the strategy battle game, and I don't know, that's a small army.
It is. And not a lot of people are into Ents.
Now you just get that, like Treebeard, Quick Beam, a couple other guys.
Yep. And Quick Beam's got a Forge World release coming out this week too.
Yep.
So it is feasible. Indeed.
And then you get to talk real slow and go, Buddha room, and annoy your opponent the entire time.
I always like walking downhill. Seems like I'm going fast.
Let's not be hasty. I would just do that until the opponent quit.
Like, I can't do it anymore. Flips the table.
We've been playing for 2 hours. It's on top of turn 1. This is murder.
You're like, oh, I just finished figuring out my first movement phase in Entish.
Yes.
Oof. There's some books coming out too. Silent Hunters hardback, Primarchs of the Blood of the Emperor, Primarchs Blood of the Emperor hardback, which I think is an anthology too. And Fabius Spal, Man Flayer is coming out in paperback this time. So those will all be out as well.
Man Flayer?
Man Flayer, the goat.
I like that name.
What else we got? Oh, so Creature Caster is coming out with their set of new smaller kind of herald-sized miniatures, the Autarchs of Ruin, on Friday, which is tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this podcast here. They are going to be $79. They come the set if you buy it in a set. Now I'm sure they'll be available separately later on, like they seem to do. $79 Canadian, excuse me. So I'm not sure how much it's going to be in American because the converter wasn't up on their site. You get this like child of ruin, little gravedigger looking dude, which is like they're kind of plague bearer duders, but they have a little bit more like a kind of like a putty face, or like, you know, from Power Rangers, or what was those guys? The Foot from.
That's from. Well, the Foot were just ninjas. The putties had the runny face.
But they had like that mono face kind of thing.
I got you.
But like kind of like creepy, kind of Slenderman body sort of thing. Like, I don't know.
Are you saying this is a cross between Slenderman, putties, and the Foot?
Yes.
Solid pitch.
Buy it now. Everybody needs some bad guys. And Slow Fuse, probably a lot of Jason Cray's Monument Hobbies, came out with some new tools. And, he hit me up and he's like, hey, I'm going to send you this cutting mat and this X-Acto blade and a scraper tool. And I'm like, oh, great. Thanks, bro. Just what I needed. More tools that I already have. And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking that was my Rob voice to myself. I'm like, yeah, I'll check it out. And, cause I love checking out new stuff, getting it in, looking at it. But like, you got to really rock my socks off when you're like, yo, I'm going to send you an X-Acto knife. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll look at it. Like, I don't know what's going to be so different about it. And then I got it in. I was like, this is different. And what it is, it's a flat, retractable X-Acto blade that I have here somewhere.
Yeah, it's like a box cutter, but an X-Acto.
It's basically a box cutter that has your standard X-Acto blade in. I'm holding it in my hand right here. And immediately what I noticed about it was, oh shit, it's not round. It's not going to roll off and stab me in the leg like I've done to myself a million times. So I'm like, I'm already on board. It's got like 3 clicky positions and it holds pretty well. Like I've cut some stupid shit I probably shouldn't have with it in it. And it did just fine. But of course, I always wear safety glasses and stuff. And I was like, well, how easy is it to change the blade? Because that's where the rub always is. Because that's usually where I end up cutting the crap out of myself. And I was like, all right, this is
How do you change the blade? Ask it for a friend.
I go to the hobby store and
buy a new X-Acto blade.
knife.
That's currently my move. Yeah.
Which, of course, when you have a fresh new blade, you automatically always cut the crap out of yourself regardless. Because you're used to the dull blade. And too much pressure in, slips.
I haven't changed my X-Acto blade since 1997.
So I'm the weirdo that's like never cut themselves with an X-Acto knife.
You're
also like probably supernaturally more dexterous than we are with your hands.
Could be true. So I love this thing. Super easy to use to change the blade. Won't roll off your table and stab you in the leg. I think it's $10.
Nice.
I mean, I remember paying like $8 for an X-Acto blade that cuts me and stabs me. So I
ask again, just to finalize this promo, like how do you change that blade?
For real?
Yeah.
You retract the blade and you pull off the little end cap right here. And there's a little, it's actually super easy.
And for the people at home, can you just hold that a little closer to the camera?
You just gently pull the blade out of the little.
Yeah, super. Holder. I mean, obviously, a super good design.
Yeah. Boop.
Yeah,
there it is.
Dope.
And then you just lock it back in.
Like, I know. Like,
right. You knew that. I'm not going to do it because I don't have enough light, and I will stab myself, not through any fault of the product. And then he has the seam scraper too, which is a double-ended one. Again, I was like, yo, I got this full tang Citadel modeling scraper thing. I've been using it for years. Like, you got to really come at me with something hard for this. And this is actually pretty dope. Like, I put it to the Space Marine backpack test, because a Space Marine backpack has like the curvy parts for whatever the radiation thing is or whatever it's supposed to be, a jetpack. I don't even know anymore. And then it's got flat parts across the back. And there's always that seam line. There's always that seam line that runs all the way across all those parts. And it's like impossible to get. And I literally took the seam scraper and I'm like, all right, let's see what you can do. And it went across everything just fine, smoothed it all out. It's wide enough that it's equal pressure over everything. I'm like, well played. Well played, Monument Hobbies. Well played. I don't even know how much that thing is, but it's probably worth every penny. Seam scraper is $9.50. I think I paid $20 for the GW one, so I know which one I will be using in the future.
I found a pretty cool little tool thing the other day.
What's that?
That are these it's photo etch metal, but they're little like hobby saws that you can put into your X-Acto knife handle. They come in different shapes. And they're really, really thin. So they have a very low kerf, which is the word for saws, that it's like the amount of material it actually carves out. So the thinner the saw, the thinner that little line that you saw through is going to be. It's made by SIMP Models. So Facebook at SIMP Models. Yeah, and like I know if you're watching, you can't see it, but there's little photo etch sheets, pretty like thick though, like photo etch steel, and they have a bunch of different sizes that come with it. Like there's like a little scalpel shaped one, and they have some larger ones that are like square and angled. These are like these rock and roll because they're really sharp, so it'll cut through plastic like butter. So if you ever want like a easy little replacement for a hobby saw, these are awesome.
Looks like they might be carried at Hobbytown, Hobby Action.
Yeah, they're a
Gundam
Gunpla product. Yeah. So I got them at USA Gundam Store.
Ah, okay. Yep, they carry them too.
But yeah, these are pretty cool. I like these.
Yeah, simp models.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Kind of funny, but I mean, it's a
Japanese name.
It's a Japanese country, so obviously does not mean the same thing.
Can we pretend it does?
I mean, you can.
Okay, I will.
Been for those hobby dollars.
You got to get them hobby dollars. So I was super stoked with all that Sophie stuff, and definitely, if you're trying to give away some of your hobby dollars, check out Sim Models for sure. For all your PMing needs. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I guess it was accidentally spoiled by Star Wars themselves, StarWars.com, that I think there's an upcoming Hasbro Pulse exclusive reveal of some new toys, but they revealed that some of the old expanded universe stuff is getting recognized and actually getting action figures to their the Black Series. So Karnar Jax, the Royal Guardsman that was on the way to becoming a Sith Lord from Crimson Empire back in the early 90s, he's getting a figure. Darth Maul is getting a figure. Not that was expanded universe, but some of the stuff that happened after episode 1 was. And that dude Jaxon, the rabbit from the old 70s comic, is getting an action figure. And Luke Skywalker in Heir to the Empire from Timothy Zahn, is getting an action figure too. So they just.
What about those two guys that caused literally all events in Star Wars to happen? What was their names?
Are you talking about the robots?
No. There was like a comic, and there was like these two guys, and I don't think it's canon, but it's like they kind of like stumble fuck their way through the entire like timeline.
Oh, that was the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern kind of parody.
Yeah. I just can't remember what their names are, but like, yeah, basically like every event that happens in Star Wars is because of some dumb thing that they did.
Oh, I don't know. I must have missed that one. But this is cool because, it's them actually saying, hey, this stuff all happened. But I guess they kind of didn't recognize it at first. So maybe they're circling back.
They got to make money somehow.
There's still hope. There's a new hope, perhaps. We'll see. I don't know.
Hope is the first step on the road to disappointment. I'm contractually obligated to say that whenever somebody mentions hope.
Fair enough. New White Dwarf is hitting store shelves this week. It might already be at your store right now. It's got the new Exorcist rules, the points values for the last update in January for Warhammer 40K, and lots of free video game codes in there to keep you engaged in the hobby. Well, the hobbydom when you play Dawn of War 1 and stuff. So look for that. It's $9 if that's your thing.
Yeah.
For all those hobby simps out there.
For all those hobby model simps. It's such an unfortunate name.
I mean, it's funny because translate when I bought these, they were called photo etch saw set. And I was like, oh, those are fucking cool. I'll try them. And then they're dope. And it wasn't until today, just now, when I brought it up, that I was like, what are these called? What's the brand? And I was like, oh, SIMP. Cool.
Yep. Notorious. I did want to touch a little bit. I know we talk a lot, well, mostly me, about value and, value propositions in the hobby and, GW. And I drone on about how I don't think that they're doing as good of a job as they can. And they just laugh and, profits. But That being said, I did want to mention that, there's still a lot of, disturbing trends out there that we can definitely see. On my end, I can see a lot of things behind the scenes, Google Analytics, checking out just comments in general, searches, behavior, even just how many people are on the web looking at the site, between the percentage between mobile and desktop, because there was a big pivot to smartphones in the early 2010s. Everybody started getting their Apple phones and the Google variants. And then, as mobile became more commonplace for websites, you had to have like a mobile version. And then it was the same version did both, and, et cetera, because so many people, up to 80% of users were mobile, because you'd be pooping and looking at your phone. You'd be at work looking at your phone, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas, for the past 6 to 8 months, it's mostly been 50-50 back to how it was before smartphones became such a big thing in our lives. So it's interesting to check the trends and to see kind of where all this thing is going. On the advertising side of things, advertising rates are down 50 to 70% right now, for all sites across the board. Whether you're a YouTube content creator, whether you're a publisher like Spiky Bits or any other of the websites out there, forums and things. It's a tough time because people aren't engaging like they used to. And strangely enough, YouTube's giving bonus kind of search engine ranking and referrals to sites like cooking sites, home fitness, or just fitness in general, because that's what people are doing. Outside activities, remodeling your house, things like that, woodworking, huge in the space right now. So when you see these trends, and probably something that more folks can relate to is, just think of your most favorite content creator, and this probably is a bad example to apply to us because we're kind of still all doing the same thing, that we kind of already do. But think about other people in the space out there, how they might be pivoting, like whether changing platforms, doing more on one platform than the other. And you might start to see these shifts, and it's not because they're doing anything wrong or right. It's because they see the trends too. Whereas they spent so much time doing something a certain way to get a certain return that isn't working right now. So you got to pivot. You got to see those micro trends and kind of pivot it accordingly, for your business unit, for your livelihood, for your salary. So when you apply that to kind of what's happened in the past 2-3 months with Games Workshop, right, that there's obviously a disengagement globally, across the board in the hobby. Now it'll pick back up and everything. I'm seeing numbers that we've never seen before in the publishing side of things, worse than when Age of Sigmar took over for fantasy and they kind of blew up the old world. It was a very, very bad time out there for retailers and publishers alike. Now, we're below those numbers, way below those numbers. And it's disparaging. But the thing is, Games Workshop sees these numbers too, right? And the fact that, money is becoming so much tighter. People are starting to understand value propositions more and more when it comes to the hobby. We just had Pariah Nexus. A lot of people had a lot of things to say about that. Now we have somewhat of a paywall release this week too, with Chardon. My computer just logged out.
Is it Rust and Rot or something?
The Book of Rust, that they're basically locking rules behind a paywall. No, we don't have all the details. We don't know whether this is going to be allowed in match play, tournament,
other people were, freaking out because maybe that's like formations, which, right. Just side note, like specialist attachments were 8th edition's approach to formations, and those were dope. And you can't even use specialist detachments in match play, and so who knows how this will even shake out. But it is a little. You're right. 4 pages of rules, $60 for my death guard that I just bought. Kind of strange.
More than one person has brought that up, and we don't know if the Cult of Strife rules for Dark Eldar are going to be included in Dark Eldar Codex. Remember, that's Lilith's, witch cult, witch coven. I forget their cult.
I don't see that being a thing. That's like saying that like they release Bobby G and his rules wouldn't be in the Space Marine Codex. Like, I'm pretty sure that all of the Dark Eldar stuff is going to be in there, like all of the core stuff. Like, she's a character, her data sheet at least will be in there.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying these are questions that have been brought up.
I'm just saying, based on trends, GW don't trend that direction on this one.
No, that's the day one DLC trend.
Yeah, I think that would be very dangerous.
That would be very
right.
bad.
You know, I mean, like they put out data sheets for stuff that we couldn't get a hold of in the Space Marine Codex. So like heavy intercessors and whatnot were in the Codex before we got the models. And that was kind of weird because usually it's the other way around. Like, you know, you get all the stuff at the release. So I imagine that since like this is coming out at the same time as the Codex, like the exact same cycle, that like her data sheet and stuff is going to be in the Codex.
You know, it's hard to say what all of it is. We know empirically one thing is getting content that wasn't in their book that just came out. So it's possible that too, you know, AdMech doesn't even have a book and they're getting content. Excuse me. Same with Imperial Knights. But I think at the end of the day, whatever the response is to this, whether I think that these rules should be put out for free to spur people buying more models, because if you get new rules, you're going to buy more models, right? The same thing with points. And I've been very vocal about that when it comes to, you know, the chapter approved points. We shouldn't have to pay for those points.
And for the most part, they have listened to that. That's interesting. That's a point on that side, is like, they've seen a trend. And what's cool about that is like, you guys mentioned a lot. It's like they're like an aircraft carrier. Course correction is different for them.
Yes.
But putting out updated rules on the internet is kind of something that they can do, and they have been doing that at a much more rapid rate and not charging us for it. If you want the physical publication, that's this White Dwarf that's coming out, right? That's coming out today, you said, or tomorrow. So but the thing is, you don't need to buy the White Dwarf to have access to the updated rules. So that's interesting. There's some slight evidence that they have been acknowledging some of these trends and fixing them where they can.
Then there's also a point to be made that like they've done some previews of the Book of Rust stuff, but they've also been pretty close to the chest about it. So we actually don't know for certain whether or not the updated rules for those three factions will be used in match play. Like, it's entirely possible this like Armies of Renown stuff won't be usable in tournaments, just like specialist attachments. Because like it seems like from their previews, like the majority of what this book is, it's a campaign narrative book, and also like more of a rules expansion for Crusade. So that seems to be like the primary reason that it exists.
And if we see instantly that these are counted as like specialist attachments, then that softens the blow, I think, because it's not even for us. You know, like
right.
Yeah,
but
I think
anyway,
it's perfectly fine to make campaign books. Like they've always had campaign related stuff for these games. And it's like, I think you are right. I agree with you that like if they make these campaign books and it's sort of like a gatekeep to match play rules like for your faction, like that kind of sucks. But then again, it's like, do you even need them? Like, no, you can wait until it comes out and be like, okay, well, I play Death Guard and it says this one Army of Renown. Like if it can't contain vehicles or you can't play this army. So like,
right. But that's like, more like trying to talk someone into somebody who's mad about this. That's kind of like saying like, you don't need to be mad about this. Like, you know what I mean? Like just because it is two things, right? Like it might not even be match play. All we give a shit about is match play. Right. So you shouldn't even be worried about this, but like, if it makes me mad, it makes me fucking mad. You know what I mean? Like, and so like the point is that yet again, it's a $60 book, and that's a trend, objectively. Again, with only a small amount of rules. Right on the heels of Pariah Nexus, which was a bit of a fucking, you know, like, we were all hype as shit on that. We were like, no, this is going to be sick. And then it's like, scratching our shits.
I think what I've said this for a while, but I think what they should do is have two separate things for these releases. It should be like, hey, for you collectors and like lore heads that just like can't get enough of this type of stuff, here's this book. Like this is the book for your army. And then for like the rules, have a separate one that's like cheap and paperback, and like you don't particularly care if it gets like FAQ'd and like points changed and that sort of thing. Kind of like what they do with Age of Sigmar. Like why I still can't for the life of me understand why they haven't been doing the books the same way.
But that's
40K, because it's really popular.
And that's kind of the point. Why aren't they, Rob? Like, why? They're doing some things like the easiest things. Typing points into a Word doc and putting them on their website. That's the easiest of all things. So obviously I understand why that is the lowest hanging fruit of all these course corrections while looking at the trends. Because they obviously do look at trends, right? There's other examples besides just that, right? This thing that like Wyatt's been preaching for months now of like, give us a top of the month point adjustment. Like they're getting closer and closer to that. They're clearly, if it's being said here, it's because we are also reading about it and talking about it on other places, right? This is just like the bottleneck of like a lot of those Nexus ideas, you know. Simultaneously, they have in the past, you know, listened to certain things that needed to get FAQ'd. You know, where GW would take forever to FAQ something, and then something came up, and then like it did get FAQ'd. So they have
those were dark times. I agree.
So like this. So again, I understand that's low hanging fruit because again, that's text on a web page, right? But you know, they are. So like my question is like, I mean, do you think that they have? Because you mentioned and Haspil mentioned that like the Pride Nexus like has a almost a year ago publication date on it, like stamped on them. So like, is the course correcting so hard and arduous and like takes so long? That are we even going to see course corrections? And it's like, we're still waiting a year for those? Or are they, because it takes so long, are they just never going to worry about it? They're just going to keep doing what works comfortably, you know, despite all these things.
Well, I mean, that's the, you know, that's the whatever GW $1 million, $1 billion worth question, because we just don't know. It takes so long for them to do things. Sometimes it's hard to predict. And I think that's very dangerous right now when technology is moving way faster than the hobby can keep up with. And by technology, I mean 3D printing. There's responsible 3D printing and not so much responsible 3D printing. But, you know, they're going to have a real problem on their hands very soon. I mean, they have the potential. So are they going to pivot? I mean, it's hard to say, but it's definitely going to take longer than not. And I think we're going to see whatever happens with this feedback from this book and what comes in the Dark Eldar book and the general consensus out there. I think it's going to be pretty pivotal. This past 2 months, back-to-back releases.
I feel like that was work for you.
Yes.
Respect.
I think, you know, me personally, I like what they did, putting the points in the White Dwarf. I mean, you still got to pay $9 for it, but I mean, dude, if you print out a nice looking printout on your printer, which most people don't even have printers anymore, like $9, you can't really be mad, and you got a whole White Dwarf to go.
No, I'm not mad about $9. Like that's a great. I mean, maybe so.
I don't feel like that's a bad thing, but remember, they did charge us for that book initially back in July, which I was not okay with. Especially the fact that a lot of that content is already FAQ'd rules wise and objective wise. So I think for me, and I know Haspil has seen this in the past, like when they put out stuff in White Dwarfs or even stuff on their website, like, hey, you can play this now, people would buy those miniatures. So I think one of the solutions that they might want to look at is if they just put out this 4 pages of rules, like, hey, here's 4 pages of rules, guys, for Death Guard, right? We realized that, hey, this book just came out, but tell you what we're going to do. These 4 pages of rules are going to be in the next printing of the Death Guard book that we do. So don't worry about it. Like if you have your Death Guard book, here they are for free. Just print them out, put them in, boop. And if anybody starts the Death Guard down the road, they will have those rules in the book, which, you know, we have seen in the past. They make
Chaos 2.0. I have that book.
So, I think that they have to be very cognizant about what's happening, and the way things worked before might not necessarily work right now.
Good observation. It's crazy because as a person who just fucks around on Facebook and talks to all in my insulated, you know, Facebook chats with all my peoples like Wyatt's and etc. Like we're just as chatty and hype as we always are in our little boxes, right? But you're right though. Like there's this invisible metric though that like you don't always see, and that is across the board engagement is in the pits for this, and I do think it's interesting that it is in the pits, and GW maybe there is because the timing seems interesting because now I'm like, well, they are moving towards some of these things that like have been preached, and it's very slowly, but like right now, I mean, maybe somebody is down, maybe somebody is there in the office, like guys, look at this, like.
Oh, another real world example that you could probably think about and relate to is GW has a new lead writer for Warhammer Community. And you may have noticed some really interesting titles on their site as of late, as well as interesting content since all this started 2-3 months ago.
I have not. Give me an example.
Sure. Let me just open up a web browser.
I literally do not know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me read you.
What like? Oh, we raided Codex Drukhari and found 7 rules you'll want to see.
Become one of Kamara's greatest crime lords with a new Drukhari Codex.
Rob, is this your coy way of telling us that you finally got hired as the lead writer of Warhammer Community?
I am jealous of the titles they have been using on their site as of late.
Oh.
I'm like,
are you
everyone
jealous
I read,
because they just sound like your titles?
what?
Like maybe they figured out that Spiky Bits is the most trafficked website in the tabletop community, and they're just copying you.
It's not. Their site actually is, but you could make the argument that engagement-wise, across the board, across all platforms, we have the highest engagement. GW is actually a top 10,000 website, which is awesome for them and very, very amazing. That Toy Soldiers are right up there with. I could look it up and see what's around them, and
they don't count porn websites in this metric, right?
They do not. No,
that's cheating.
That's
because then we're all cheating. Like.
Here's another good one. Colonia Zenigate foresaw Cursed City's fall. Shame that everyone ignored her. God, so good.
That is what is called a hook.
They're so good.
That is a really good title.
I don't know. It sounds like clickbait to me.
Absolutely.
I don't like this because their ads on this website is bullshit. I demand there be no ads on the internet ever.
First of all, 2 things I do want to say. First, thank you everybody for engaging with us on across all the platforms too. By the way, because we just hit 300,000 likes on Facebook, which is kind of amazing, and I had no idea until somebody was like, "Hey, congratulations on 300,000 likes," and I was like, "Wait, what? Where?" And I was like, "Oh shit, that's correct. That's awesome. Thank you. Yes, awesome." Which is amazing. So thank you everybody so much for hanging in there over the past like 11 years of clickbaitery, I guess. Also, I did mention that ad revenue is down 50 to 70% across the board. Don't worry, we haven't put any extra ad units on the site at all that make up for that. There's still the same amount of ads. So we're not making any crazy pivots. We're just doing our thing every day.
You are. You're pivoting to 3D printing.
We have a sister company that does some 3D printing.
That's a classic example of what to do when you look at trends are moving the wrong direction.
Is Heisenberg copyrighted?
Heisenberg is actually named. There's a story behind Heisenberg, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which is I'm not going to get into it.
I knew about that, but could you call yourself like Heisenberg 3D printing?
If it was not registered in the state, you could.
Like,
yes.
we'll cook you up like some good minis.
We'll. God's so good. Why don't you think of that?
Your slogan should be "Say my name."
Yeah.
Tight.
That's good.
Yeah, science.
You guys want to move into some pop culture with Mike Haspil?
Let's do it. Yeah, that was kind of my segue. Breaking Bad
with Mike Haspil.
Haspil's always got the goods. It's a shame sometimes we ignored him.
It always works.
I think I'm telling you, that's a good hook.
Dude, these titles are so good.
You want to click on it and be like, "Oh, well, what did she say?"
I kind of want to hear you read these titles, like dramatic Warhammer Community title reading with Mike Haspil.
We might have to do like a bit like that, like it's 90s Conan or something.
Please. Anyways.
Yeah. So this section I am not going to include any spoilers, but like at 0 Dark 30 this morning, I got up and I watched the Snyder cut of Justice League. And the long and short of it is that if you don't like Zack Snyder movies, you probably are not going to like it. If you like Zack Snyder movies, this is his magnum opus. Everything's in there. So but what I found really incredible is that Warner Brothers took this chance, and I think the lesson because I can't think of another time somebody did this, like a studio did something like this where they released director's cuts, and the closest I can come to how different a cut is Kingdom of Heaven by Ridley Scott.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Wow, that different, huh?
It's the Snyder cut is a million times more different than that.
How many more minutes is in this thing?
It's double the runtime.
It's like 4 hours.
The Whedon theatrical.
What?
Yeah. It's 4 hours.
Oh, that's totally worth watching.
And
I mean, it's straight up a case of like, after they film a movie, there's this editing process that like very active directors sit in the editing, like there's no editing taking place without them.
There's also a clause in the Directors Guild of America that they have like so many days to submit for doing a director's cut. Like the studio has to be like, do you want to do this? And if you do, you have so many days to do it. And a lot of times they'll just be like, no, I'm good.
But this isn't a director's cut. This is the Snyder's cut. They're calling it. Yeah, this is a movie. This is them taking.
So they could go back.
This is them taking all the footage that they filmed and and sitting in the editing bay and putting together his movie, because that's half of it. And so this is a different fucking movie with the same clips that they already filmed. It's like, and that is so much of this. And so this is not a director's cut. This is the Snyder cut. Justice League. This is a new movie.
It is a different movie. It is the way I was talking to somebody earlier and I was trying to describe my experience with it, because I really like Zack Snyder. So I like his style. Mm-hmm. I like his visuals. So the way I tried to describe it is, do you remember the second Hobbit movie? Yeah, nobody does. So don't feel bad. That's the old version of Justice League. And the Snyder cut is like the extended edition of Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, because I started to watch the original one. I only made it halfway through and I turned it off. I'm really biased. I like Joss Whedon stuff, but I think Whedon was under some very stringent. I think he was under orders, honestly. It was a studio.
You need to bring this in under 2 hours, and we want a Marvel movie. And he reshot a ton of stuff and delivered that. In fact, some of the same gags that show up in Age of Ultron show up in his cut of Justice League. When I saw the Zack Snyder cut, my first thought went to there is a meme of Ben Affleck, and it's not for the same movie, but there's a meme of Ben Affleck. It's called Sad Ben Affleck.
Yes.
Where he's sitting next to, Henry Cavill, and it's for Batman versus Superman. But as they start telling him that the reviews are mixed, the sound kind of goes out of the interview, and they just start running The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel over Ben Affleck sitting there sad. And when I saw the Snyder cut, one of the things I thought of was that, because I was like, how, knowing that you had filmed this movie, how did you go out and now be positive and do positive press for the Whedon cut, which is
I imagine it's like you kind of have to, right? Like, isn't that whole thing where they have to talk to all those reporters and answer all those fucking questions all day? Like,
but when people criticize it and you can't say anything because you're under an NDA, it's just kind of brutal. So I was very, very happy that this saw the light of day. I think a lot of people are going to love it. A lot of people are not going to like it. And like I said, this is a Zack Snyder magnus opus. So if you do not like super slow-mo and the speed ramping and all that stuff, that is literally throughout the entire movie. So it's like, if you don't like that stuff, you're not going to like it. If you like Zack Snyder, you're going to love it. But more importantly, and this is kind of like my pitch to you, to everybody listening. I'll confess, full confession. I was sharing passwords on HBO Max, because that's what we do now, right? If somebody gets a subscription and you pass the password around and there's like 9 people using one password. After I watched this, I subscribed to HBO Max because they deserved my money.
Cool. For There's so many good shows on there.
What is the sub for that? Because I thought it was like, is 6 months for like, is it a 6 month thing or is it a month thing?
It's monthly, and I want to say it was like $14.95, so it was a little pricier than like Netflix or something.
But movies, there's a lot of really good stuff on HBO Max. Like that's one of my main ones. My money. Yeah, like I can suggest a lot of stuff on there that I've already gone through.
Well, why I think I was watching HBO Max already.
Okay. All right. I misunderstood.
He's just now giving them money.
I'm now paying for it. Okay. Because I wanted to reward them instead of just like, people just swap passwords. I mean, that's what people do. And HBO had said in the past that it was like they didn't really care. But I was just like, you guys took a chance on this. And I guess the lesson I would get out of it is that if you're a studio and you have a director that has a very singular visionary style and he goes and you hire him to make something, don't expect another director to come in and retcon that entire thing and be successful.
Yeah. I kind of wish we knew more to the story too, because like the reasons he left were, they were like, you could kind of ferret out why, because he had a great tragedy in his family. And so that was probably a huge part of it. But it was all kept in secret. So like there might have been like who knows how much like abruptness to that leaving, and then like they had to bring somebody in to like bring this thing home. And then they were like, oh, okay, well, we don't have to go through this guy anymore. So then all the studio meddling came in.
And tonally, they're not even similar movies at all. They're totally different.
I think the most telling thing is that they removed like all of the the camera and lighting choices and like oversaturated all the colors and everything. So
but there's a reason for that too. Like there's a lot of drama I don't want to get into right now, but like there was some stuff about Ray Fisher accusing Joss Whedon of lightening people's skin colors in his cut and cutting out a lot of actors, a lot of POCs. And I won't go that much more into it. It became increasingly apparent as I was watching the Snyder Cut that all that was true.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if it was intentional or if it's just by coincidence that you're like, hey, we got to cut this story down because we don't have 4 hours. We got 2 hours. So all these side stories got to go. And it could just be coincidental, but it was really obvious.
Did they let Henry Cavill's mustache ride? Did he let him have a mustache?
No, he does not have.
Did you say mustache rides?
You see, I always thought that was a little bit silly because in my mind, I thought it would add more to the movie if like he had the mustache and he was like, oh, I'm just trying something new. And like the other guys in the Justice League gave him shit for it,
He sported a beard in the first one in Man of Steel, so it's not like he can't grow.
Yeah, they CG'd it the wrong direction. They should have added more.
Yeah, they should have just been like, just like grow a beard. It looks way cooler that way.
But yeah, I'm just like, I was just super excited for it. And I was very wary. And there is one thing about it that will probably put a lot of people off. And it kind of surprised me, is the entire thing is in 4:3 format. So when you start it, it is not, your TV is not busted. It is not wrong. It is in 4:3 format, because I think this was intended for an IMAX release.
Oh, so it's still sort of like letterbox, but it's like, is that the skinnier letterbox?
Oh, they didn't do like, this has been reformatted for your TV.
Well, it does say at the beginning something about this is 4:3 to respect the original vision.
Yeah.
But after you're like into it for like 5 minutes, you don't notice it anymore.
I mean, yeah, especially if you have like a big TV, it's almost like it doesn't matter.
Oof.
Yeah, but I just wanted to point that out because I do know of several people that thought that their stuff was busted. And they were just like, hey, it's not working on my stream. It's in 4:3 format. I can't get, I'm like, no, that's the way it is. So I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thank Warner Brothers and HBO for taking a chance on this film, because I can't even imagine anybody working on this thing and then knowing, like, for 4 years ago, it would have never seen the light of day.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, when you see this, it's like, and it's broken up into chapters so that like you can go to the bathroom and stuff, because it is 4 hours long.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Yeah. But I adored it. So
thank you for the report. I am stoked beyond belief, and thank you for the reminder to go watch it tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out tomorrow. I got my PS5 in the mail, so I'm going to crack out on Demon Souls after the podcast.
Nice. You got it.
I did. I got it. I had to go down to a seedy basement and fight a man in a blood sport just to get one.
With your dominant arm?
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, man. I'm stoked. Thanks for the reminder, though, for real. I would have forgot, Mike, because I put it in my calendar. It's like, you got to watch this shit. Stoked. Thank you. Want to talk about the quick preview we got on the Dark Eldar?
The Dark Eldar, yeah.
Yeah, real quick. Get some rules out of it.
Cool. Yeah, so they showed off a number of things talking about different aspects of the Dark Eldar. So, just a little refresher. They have the Cabals, have the Witch Cults, and they have the Flesh Covens. So your like Archons, Kabbalite warriors, that sort of thing. Those are the Cabals. Your succubuses, witches like Lilith. Those are the witch cults. Then you have like the homunculi and the grotesques and the Talos Pain engines. Those are the homunculus covens. So talking about some of the new Archon stuff, and you can do point cost upgrades to your Archons now. Give them some interesting things. So like Splinter Genius, once per battle at the end of the fight phase, if this model is within engagement range of any enemy units, it can fight again. Kind of cool. Double fight Archon once per game in that super clutch moment. Kind of cool. They show off a relic called the Soul Helm, which is a 2-parter. Each time an attack is made that targets the bearer, subtract 1 from that attack's hit roll. And each time the bearer would lose a wound on a d6, a 5-up, that wound is not lost. So he's got -1 to hit and a 5-up feel no pain. That's a pretty solid little relic. They also show off a warlord trait called Consummate Weapon Master. Add 1 to the damage characteristic of all melee weapons this warlord is equipped with, excluding relics. Which is also pretty neat, because usually Archons have been sort of like not very nasty in close combat. They've had a lot of like 1 damage poison weapons and stuff like that. So then like bumping that up to like 2 damage, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot.
Every time I hear that word, though, I have to hear Strong Bad say, I said consummate. Consummate.
That's exactly what I thought.
Let's see. They talk about favored retinues. Bands of elite bodyguards, which seem to hang around the aforementioned Master Archons. It says, no doubt the master succubi and homunculi had their own retinues too. So they kind of hint that you can also do point cost upgrades for your succubi and homunculi. Pretty neato. And then they show this off. Kabbalite Trueborn. For each master archon unit in your army, one unit of Kabbalite warriors in the same detachment can be upgraded to Kabbalite Trueborn. Kabbalite Trueborn have a maximum unit size of 10, gain the Kabbalite Trueborn keyword, and have the following additional abilities. Models in this unit have a ballistic skill of 2 up. Add 1 to the leadership characteristic. And each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, you can ignore any or all hit, roll, and ballistic skill modifiers. So that is pretty cool, considering that is free for 1 unit of Kabbalites if you pay the points for having a Master Archon. They talk about raiding forces, and they show this off. So it says raiding forces. If your army is battle forged, each Drukhari detachment in your army must be designated as a Cabal detachment, Witch Cult detachment, Homunculus Coven detachment, or Real Space Raid detachment. Your army can only include 1 Real Space Raid detachment. Real Space Raid detachments gain the Real Space Raid ability. If every detachment in your army is a Drukhari Patrol detachment, change the command cost of those detachments to 0 CP. All Cabal units in a Cabal detachment gain a Drukhari obsession. All Witch Cult units in a Witch Cult detachment gain a Drukhari obsession, and all Homunculus Coven units in a Homunculus Coven detachment gain a Drukhari obsession. And
that's classic. I mean, that's a good way to doing that theme that they used to have.
Right. And then this next one explains what the Real Space Raid detachment is. It says if a Real Space Raid detachment contains 1 Archon unit, that is your Warlord, 1 Succubus unit, and 1 Homunculus unit, and at least 1 Kabbalite Warriors unit, at least 1 Witches unit, and at least 1 Rax unit, all units, excluding Blades for Hire units, unless otherwise specified, in that detachment gain a Drukhari obsession. As well as gaining Drukhari obsessions for each Cabal, Witch Cult, and Homunculus Coven unit in a Real Space Raid detachment, you can also select the associated Cabal, Witch Cult, and Homunculus Coven relics for the units in that detachment, even though your Warlord is not from a Witch Cult or Homunculus Coven. All units in a Real Space Raid detachment gain the Real Space Raider keyword, and you can replace your Warlord's Overlord ability with the following ability, Raid Mastermind. While a friendly Real Space Raider core unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time an attack is made by a model in that unit, reroll a hit roll of 1.
We got a bubble. We got an aura.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
And then it goes over a couple of other little things, like one of the obsessions. This is for Cabal of the Poisoned Tongue. It's the obsession, the Serpent's Kiss. Each time a model with this obsession makes an attack with a poison weapon, improve the poison weapon ability of that weapon by 1 to a maximum of 2 up, i.e. a poison weapon 4 up becomes poison weapon 3 up. If an enemy unit has any models destroyed by an attack made with a poison weapon by a model with this obsession, till the end of the turn, subtract 1 from combat attrition tests taken for that enemy unit.
Bonus. Nice.
Yeah, a cool little bonus for the Cabal boys. And then they show off a stratagem for the Cabal of the Poison Tongue, Insidious Misdirection for 2 CP. Use this stratagem at the start of the first battle round. Select up to 3 Cabal of the Poison Tongue units from your army and redeploy them. If the mission uses the Strategic Reserves rules, any of those units can be placed into Strategic Reserves without having to spend any additional CP, regardless of how many units are already in Strategic Reserves. If both players have abilities that redeploy units, roll off. The winner chooses who redeploys their units first.
Dope.
Yeah, this could be really good. So just for redeploys, real good. Being able to redeploy into Strategic Reserves for no CP cost other than the 2 CP for doing this, also really fucking cool. And then the last thing they show off, no, I take it back. So the next thing they show off is Power from Pain. So the really cool little snowball chart that the Drukhari have had for a while. And they show off the bonuses for the turn count, and they're slightly different. So on turn 1, they get Inured to Suffering. Models in this unit have a 6-up invulnerable save. On turn 2, they get Eager to Flay. This unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which they advanced. On turn 3, they get Flensing Fury. Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. If this unit has the vehicle or monster keyword, it does not suffer the penalty incurred to its hit rolls for firing heavy weapons at enemy units that are within engagement range of it. On turn 4, they gain Mantle of Agony. Models in this unit have a 5-up invulnerable save. And in turn 5, Emboldened by Bloodshed. Each time a morale test is taken for this unit, it is automatically passed. If this unit's characteristics can change as it suffers damage, this unit is considered to have double the number of wounds remaining for the purposes of determining what those characteristics are.
That's a pretty cool update on the Power for Pain. That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah. So I like this a lot. Not a huge fan of losing the Feel No Pain, but that might come in elsewhere.
But it went from a 6-up Feel No Pain to a 6-up Invulnerable, right?
Yes.
Mathematically, the 6-up Invulnerable is better.
Right. So one, I like that all units that get power from pain that don't naturally have an invul save now have one, and it goes up to a 5-up on turn 4. And the other thing that I'm wondering is, will this affect the units that already have an innate invul save like Grotesque and Rax and a handful of other things? And if this is going to change how the Prophets of Flesh obsession works, where they get +1 to their invul saves. And if that is the case, if they still have that, this is really cool, because now all of a sudden all your units without invul saves have a 5-up, and then on turn 4 they go to a 4-up too.
Yeah, time will tell.
And then we get into some combat drugs. Units with this ability gain additional abilities depending on which combat drugs they are using during this battle. Before the battle, determine what additional abilities are granted to each unit from your army with the combat drugs ability. You can select one of the abilities from the table below for that unit. Alternatively, you can randomly determine 2 abilities from the table for units with the combat drugs ability by rolling 2d6 and looking up the result. And then they show off a couple of cool little relics. And I think you guys will appreciate this one. The Djinn Blade. It's a model equipped with a Husk Blade only. This relic replaces a Husk Blade. It has the following profile. Strength +1, -3 AP, 3 flat damage. Each time the bearer fights, it makes 2 additional attacks with this weapon. At the end of the fight phase, roll 1d6. If the bearer made any attacks with this weapon on a 1, the bearer suffers 1 mortal wound. And then they show off the Nightmare Doll, and this is for homunculi only. Each time the bearer would lose a wound, roll a d6. On a 4-up, that wound is not lost.
Damn, that's good.
You can show food.
4-up Feel No Pain on my homunculi. Yes, please.
Yeah, that's could be problematic.
Well, that's a spicy little preview. It's all pretty
I'm liking a lot of this. Definitely want to see more of it. I'm a big fan of my homunculus covens, hoping they get some love. But yeah, it's exciting. Going to be lots of wacky lists when you factor in how you can do all these different like makeups for detachments to get kind of like special abilities. So I can think of a couple of different ways to do these like real space raid things, where you get like all of your detachments for no CP cost, and you get obsessions for all of the separate detachments. You're going to get to like pick and choose the tastiest nuggies of all the stuff.
It's very Dark Eldar, man. God, I can't wait. Now I got to get a new codex. New models.
Oh, I already have mine on order. Yeah, I'm psyched. And then the other one, they talk about some of the stuff from the Book of Rust. Oh, actually, they don't.
Formations? Or, so sorry, what are they? Regiments of Renown?
Armies of Renown.
Yeah, Armies of Renown.
Yeah, so the other article, I think it's all Crusade stuff. I think the second article where they talk about the Comorags, crime lords.
Oh yeah, it's Crusade stuff.
Yeah, it's all Crusade stuff. So it's very thematic with drug trafficking, toxin distilleries, and all sorts of different things. Like kind of cool. But as far as like previews for the codex that are gonna affect your regular play and that sort of stuff, that was the only article they show off that stuff.
There'll be more. People will have the books this weekend.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And of course,
And a preview.
the internet blew up with Be'Lakor a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, Be'Lakor. He looking real cool.
His
You
rules
want to
are
go over
spicy.
his stuff because I feel like everybody's already kind of seen it.
I mean, we haven't commented on it, so we should comment on it because we saw his weapon profile and we saw his shadowy form update, right?
Oh yeah.
Let me find his.
I'm probably going to pick up that model too.
Oh, it's so
looks
sick.
dope. It's sick.
The only big question mark
cool.
for me is because you can put the different casualties on the steps, if you can keep them off and still use it.
I'll be honest, like
both.
this model is so cool, but it is also like so busy that if there's stuff I can leave off, I'm probably going to.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to use it for both systems, you don't want to put like a Chaos Warrior or a Primaris Lieutenant on it, You know,
what's funny is I saw his base and I was like, I kind of wish that Black Library would do like maybe like a series of short stories where like a Primaris Marine gets like sucked into a warp hole and just ends up in the Age of Sigmar universe. And that's just figure shit out. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's
Hashtag winning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, eventually he's going to run out of ammo. And so, I mean, but yeah, so Be'Lakor looking real cool. He's got the Blade of Shadows, which has 2 striking profiles. The Sweeping Strike, which is strength user -3, 1 damage, but you make 2 attacks for every normal attack instead of 1. And then he's got the Piercing Strike, which is strength +4, -4 AP, D3 +3 damage.
which is the new heat for damage.
And you cannot take invul saves.
No intervals.
No invul saves.
I'd meet it to D3 +3, but damn.
Yeah, so really like the only thing that like truly holds up to him in a close combat environment is like a Satan Shard or a Gazgul. Everything else, he's just kind of like
He pretty much aces. I mean, they even said in the article, this dude just cleans Land Raiders.
Yeah.
Like, bro, this dude, like, if he puts his hands on you before you put your hands on him, but like,
Yeah.
and you don't have damage scaling, whew. But how do you keep him alive? And he's traditionally had shadowy form, and that used to be like form vulnerable with a reroll.
Yeah, so he has 2 things now. It's Immortal Vigor and Shadow Form. So he has a 4-up invul save, and he's -1 to wound all the time from ranged attacks.
-1 to wound, you said?
Yeah, so 4-up invul save, and each time a ranged attack is made against him, -1 to wound. Then he has Shadow Form, and then every time you shoot at him, or every time an attack is made against him, you cannot re-roll the hit roll. And then each time an attack is made against this unit, subtract 1 from that attack's hit roll. So he's -1 to hit from everything. You cannot re-roll the hit roll again for ranged or melee. And he is -1 to wound from ranged attacks with a 4-up.
What an incredible defensive suite of powers.
Ooh, yes. Yeah. Be'Lakor, he coming to take your girl.
Depending on what he's at the level of, and Rob already said it, he probably going to be Bloodthirster level. Depending on what his wound profile looks like and his point cost look like, this guy is going to fuck.
Oh yeah, we've already done some theory crafting, you and I, about what we would want to play with Be'Lakor.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's preposterous.
Yeah. I'm like, if he's this points, then we have this many points left over, which equals this. So we're pretty.
Yeah. There's a handful of models in that case behind me that have been wanting to hit the table for a while, and they might roll up with Be'Lakor.
Yeah.
What a goddamn sexy beast. And real quick, before we conclude tonight, let's do a quick meta recap of Clash City this weekekend, or last weekend.
Oh, sure.
Run through that top 10 real quick. Tell us.
Yeah. So, a lot of surprising stuff in the top brackets at Clash City.
I'd love to talk about that Custodes army next week.
Yeah, the Custodes army is pretty wild in 10th place. There was another one that was even crazier that was like all dreadnoughts.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. So that was not the top 10 one. That was the other top 10 one was wacky too, because it had a lot of like inquisitors and assassins and stuff. Mm-hmm. So equally wacky, but for a different reason. Pretty cool. So a lot of Death Guard representation in the top brackets, which was pretty cool. So let's just go through it. of course, friend of the stream, Captain America Sean Naden, pulled it out with his supposedly F tier Eldari army.
I like that he brought the Razor Wing Fox back.
I mean, and he came with the Avatar.
Yep.
Like rolled in with the Avatar and just, went undefeated, scored 551 battle points. So hats off to you, bud. In second place was Orcs. Friend of mine here in the local scene, Clifton Murica Russell with his Orcs, went 5-1 and scored 538 battle points. And he was running a really tough list that had 18 smash guns and 3 Grot mega tanks, Ludas, bunch of Gretchen, some commandos. Really cool list. Their local guy, John Camacho, with Imperium Super Faction in third. Nick Donavati with Death Guard in fourth place. Jack Harpster with Black Templars in fifth place. Joseph Rexer, Dark Angels, in sixth place in East Team Texas. And then we had William Abelez with Tau in seventh place. Mutual friend of ours, Junior, with Blood Angels in eighth place, representing Team Zero Comp. Ninth place was Keith Underreiner with Imperium Super Faction. He had some Astartes and Knights. And then Ryan Snyder in 10th place with Adeptus Custodes.
It's interesting because as the meta comes back, we kind of seen it. We have a trend here, right? We're seeing often Custodes in the top 10, Death Guard in the top 10, Orcs in the top 10, and a bunch of different versions of Space Marines, right? Of Imperial stuff, like Space Marines or some other combination there. So, but we're seeing the more jankier 8th edition books, right? Kind of worked their way up to the top. Orcs have been working their way up to the top with the Smash Guns and the Fury Road Dragsters and stuff. We've seen that make a comeback, combinations therein. We have been seeing Death Guard make frequent appearances in the top 10, but only Nick Nalvadi made it to the top 10 with Death Guard in this bigger tournament, which is interesting. So all the other Death Guards got beat out of the top 10 by, the usual suspects. The weird outlier is obviously Sean's Eldar list, which, many people think is you can't win a tournament with that. And they're probably right, but Sean can. That dude is the guy who brought 18 lictors to, he's always changing the rules, right? That's kind of his thing. So, but he is absolutely a surgeon at using whatever jankery he can built into the rule set, and some 8th edition jankery there. But it's pretty interesting to see how this plays out, because it wasn't just one type of Space Marines all the way across the board either. You said Dark Angels, Black Templar, and Blood Angels, and 2 Super Faction style. So still dominant presence in the top 10, but diverse.
Yeah, and I mean, so if we go farther down into top 25, we're also seeing White Scars. Our boy Marcus got 12th place with Space Wolves, and people kind of counted Space Wolves out real early, but he's been doing really well. And then the majority of the pure Death Guard players were in the top 25, and there were only 8 people in the tournament that scored over 500 battle points, including myself, and the majority of those 8 people were also the Death Guard players. So Death Guard was doing really well, but I mean, it's hard out there. There was a lot of talent in this room. If you look at the names, a lot of people traveled in for this event. So the top brackets at this tournament was real hardball, 40K.
It's definitely a litmus test for where things are going.
No, there's a couple of outliers, but we are seeing some trends established, right? So but it also, the best part of this is that you're not seeing, with the exception of some of the old jankier 8th edition lists, in some situations, but not even all, you're seeing a very diverse field, not like the old days. All the Death Guard players are very different, as what Wyatt mentioned there earlier today. So only a couple had Mortarion, and most of them have vastly different and wildly different lists. I mean, we got Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Black Templar, like all these different. So this is definitely where we want to be as we come out of this pandemic and we start getting ready for conventions again. People are fucking going to bring some dope shit that they like. Mm-hmm. They're going to make it work because of the way the game works now. And it's going to be possibly a renaissance. Like,
yeah, it's really cool to see everything that was there. I mean, like, there's obviously some stuff that, like, kind of people understand that, like, it's just good, like, objectively has a lot of tools, like the Space Marines. Doesn't particularly matter what Space Marines you play. If you're good at playing Space Marines, like, they have a lot of tools and you can get up there, you know? So, like, you know, Marcus, like, he had only played like a handful of games in 9th edition. This was his first 9th edition tournament. He came in went 4-2, got 12th place.
12th place.
Space Wolves. You know, and people are like, oh, Space Wolves are bad. They're the worst Space Marine. But it's like, are they really? Or is it more like that Space Marines have so many tools and then, you know, Space Wolves may not have some of those same ones, but like they're still good. You know, and we're seeing stuff like Harlequins are still doing really well. You're still seeing like Imperial Knights as a support force, like even now doing well, going like 3-3, 4-2 at these events. Gene Stealer Cult, also considered like F tier, 14th place. Excuse me. You know, and like, oh, Tower really bad, got 7th place, that kind of thing. So it's really interesting. And I really like that we're seeing, like, especially the 9th edition codexes, how the age of the, like, I'm going to build my army around these handful of like gotcha bitch wombo combos is over with. So like you can still see some of that with the older dexes like Harlequins and maybe some of the Eldar stuff, maybe some of the Gene Stealer stuff. But for the most part, like building lists that way, just it doesn't really work anymore. And you can't do it with the 9th edition books. And then on top of that, the way that you win games in 9th edition is largely different than when we were playing in 8th edition with the ITC, you know, and like it's kind of contentious. Like I really like the ITC. I know Kenny really liked the ITC. A lot of people did. It was the most popular system. Some people didn't like the ITC, right? But in 9th edition, a lot of times you have to look at it beyond just like killing models, right? Like kill more, hold more isn't really a thing anymore. So you have to look at all of the secondaries that you have at your disposal. You have to look at the mission type. You have to look at how many objectives there are on the table and where they're placed. Because a lot of times you can straight up like win a game and almost kill no models. Like I played round 4 against a list that was 13 Armiger War Dogs, and not a great list to go to play against for me because he can shoot you off the table like crazy. But if you play smart, use terrain to your advantage, and pick the proper secondaries, you can easily win and then only kill 4 Armigers because you don't really have to kill much of anything.
Yeah, don't take what is it? Kill more than the kill of you.
Grind him down. Sometimes grind him down is a good idea.
Sometimes.
Like if I was playing like if I'm taking my Death Guard against an army who is majority like toughness 4, toughness 3, but they're not Space Marines, then grind him down is actually a really good secondary for me to take because of my toughness and because of me lowering the toughness characteristic of those armies to like 2 or 3, which like really increases my offensive power. But against like against me, unless you just have like a preposterous amount of shooting, then taking grind him down isn't a great choice against Death Guard. So like I took direct assault and dominate, and while we stand, we fight against those Armigers where it's just like, well, I can't really kill a lot of these Armigers. I don't have the shooting force to be able to trade with them. So I'm just going to like hold objectives and hide from you, score 6 secondary points every turn at the end of my turn, and then, you know, score like 89 to 60. And I've only killed 4 Armigers.
And you forced him to give you those Armigers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that because we do play in an asymmetric format, but so was ITC. But ITC became like kind of pseudo asymmetric because everyone kind of just kind of figured out like what 2 secondaries are kind of the ones you can gear for every time, and then you kind of just rotated your third option out sometimes. Yeah. But now, you know, your path to victory is truly unique in every game, and like you can discover interesting paths just through a little bit of, you know, preparedness So
like sometimes taking a punch is more important with the list that you build rather than like building to be super killy, right? So that's part of it too.
Yeah. Well, fuck yeah, man. And congratulations on winning Best Painted.
Thank you. I got this sick life-size bolt gun as a prize. So I know
sweet.
People listening can't see it, but for all the live people, I got a Blood Angels Artificer bolt gun. It's
pretty sweet
3D printed prop. They painted up all nice. Looks really cool. So I'm super stoked for that.
You gotta do sound effects so we know that it's there. Like, oh, he's holding the bolter.
Paint a picture with your words.
Yeah.
Well, we covered a lot today. So I feel like we can conclude this one, Rob. What do you think?
This is the part where I tell Haspil to take us out.
You just
Yeah,
did.
you're the talker.
I just did.
Why do you say this to me when you know I will kill you for it?